where do we go now if we're the Buffalo Bills? I mean, obviously we saw Josh Allen's emotion, how upset he was. That hurt me last night watching that, just for what a great human being he is, the football player, all those things. It was tough to watch. I'll tell you, there was a moment in the game, Fitz, right there at the end. I think it was the first down call where they kind of run the fake screen and have two verticals going, and he kind of thinks Shakir's going to keep going vertically, throws it. It's incomplete. And they kind of panned to Josh's face. And his face to me kind of was like, oh no. Like, it was like, man, that was a wasted down in a moment where I can't have any wasted downs. And you could kind of see a little bit of that starting to creep. And then obviously at the end, with what happened, he's just devastated. So, I mean, as much as all Bills Mafia is, I'm sure, where do they go from here?
Yeah. I mean, you could tell, I mean, and those are high, intense, pressure-packed games, man. And he was certainly feeling, the pressure and how important of a moment that was for his career, and, realized the gravity of it. And especially, I actually really enjoy the human element of that. And, having him get up in front of a microphone, however difficult that may be, as fans, that's pulling back the curtain, and that's allowing all of us to see the raw emotion that a guy like that is going. I mean, he was fighting, getting out words. I mean, making sentences because of how much this hurt. And, he's a guy that understands and appreciates now as he's getting older, like these opportunities don't come every single year. So I know that was in the back of his mind too. But, where they go from here, I think this season has to be seen as a success, especially with all the changes, especially to their captains and all the people that were moved out of the building this last offseason. They've got some decisions to make. They've got to get better on defense. They did force a lot of turnovers on defense this year, but I think, that's something, their ability to put pressure on the passer consistently, that's something they're going to have to address. And then, they made the addition, which is an admission of, look, we need a guy at receiver. And they brought in Amari Cooper, hoping that he was going to be that guy. And unfortunately, with as great as Amari's been his whole career, it just never really took off like it was supposed to, with that dominant number one receiver. And even the absence of Keon Coleman in the last few games, hopefully he continues to get better and grow, because he's a big time target, physical guy. Their offensive line was great all year long. Cook was unbelievable this season. So I think a lot of their issues are going to be potentially finding another receiver and then addressing some of those issues on the defensive side of the ball. I think that'll be the focus this offseason.
Yeah, I think when you look at these franchises like this and a fan goes, all right, here we are, we're in this moment. Like, okay, let's just reload it. Next year, we're going to be back in this moment. Like, Josh is still Josh. Like, we look at all the things we give to build off, but football's just not that easy. And, and I said this for years when the Niners kept missing, that opportunity where they would be insane during the season, get to the Super Bowl and not figure out to win it, is that we take for granted a lot of the reasons you're in it. I've said this since we started the podcast, and I've said this since I started on Thursday Night Football. If you track these teams, every single one of them that are playing in these last few weekends of the season, go look at how healthy they are. Go look at their injury history of their team. Or even if they had an injury, did they have somebody they had already drafted in a high position to be ready for that position to take over? It just shows up when you get to this last part of the season of those healthy teams. Well, it's not easy to go repeat next year and say, all right, this Buffalo Bills offense, they were led. Josh Allen obviously is a massive part of this whole entire equation, but they were led by how well this offensive line played, the continuity they kept there with James Cook, like you said. But why is that? They were the offensive line, like we heard many times on the broadcast last night, that played the most snaps together all year. They were completely healthy. So when you have those scenarios happen as a team, I look at it in the turnover thing. You lead the NFL in turnover differential. How many times are you going to have the opportunity to do that? We don't know. Injuries, you stay really healthy and you get to this point and you don't take advantage of it. It's not as easy as rinse and repeat in the NFL ever. That's why every season, your best bet is to bet on some team who didn't make the playoffs the year before to have an insane season, because it happens every year. And so I just think it's a challenge to get back there. There's going to be a lot of things they got to make a decision on this offseason. Obviously, a lot of guys coming back. They had a lot of dead cap. So it wasn't a year that people expect them to be this good. So that's a good thing. But there's still some tough decisions probably to be made. Is that do you start thinking about, should we extend Josh Allen now and kind of take some of that money off to get us a little more room to get better? And then in years down the road, we'll have more space to be able to kind of fit his contract in. All those kind of forward thinking things. They won't be able to do a lot with their current situation, but they will be able to do some things, and maybe something like a Josh extension that would lower his number this year and help them build a little bit around him for this next season would be something in the cards. But man, it's just tough because the human beings, and you obviously, because of you and how much Buffalo means to you, I've gotten to be really close to it and follow it. Man, they just deserve it, and I just hope they get that opportunity again.
It makes me so sad. We'll move on to something else before we start crying. But let me say this last
Don't
thing.
cry on the podcast,
dude, which is just texting with one of my buddies who lives in Buffalo this morning, and just the anxiety before the game and during the game and everything. But going to work today, he said it's just silence. It's just silence at work today, because this isn't a game to these people in Buffalo. This isn't just for fun. Like, this is their life. And so to be so close, to feel that, to have Josh have that opportunity to go down and win the game, and all the hope and excitement, and for it not to happen, it's like a funeral or a wake right now, in Buffalo, and it's not gonna be gone anytime soon. But I don't want to cry in the podcast.